The District, Season 1, Chapter 16, following. Isabel starts to notice Richard's presence everywhere. A little too often, a little too close. Patricia senses something is wrong, and a fragile new trust begins to form, right as Margaret's composure shows its first real crack. What does it mean to keep tabs on someone? Why do we say someone is on edge? And how does the phrase "you okay" actually sound in fast, caring, casual speech? It started small enough that Isabel almost convinced herself she was imagining it. Tuesday, Richard happened to be near the coffee station exactly when she was. Wednesday, he passed her desk twice within an hour, glancing over without quite stopping. Thursday, she looked up from a report to find him standing near the printer, not printing anything, just watching the floor with his usual unreadable calm. Is it just me? Isabel said quietly to Lynn over lunch. Or does it feel like Richard's keeping tabs on me? Keeping tabs how? Lynn asked, frowning. He's just around, more than usual. I catch him watching me sometimes, and then he looks away like nothing happened. After what I said to you in the stairwell, Lynn said slowly, I don't think you're imagining it. Isabel pushed her food around her plate, appetite gone. I don't know if he's protecting me or watching me. Maybe both. Maybe it doesn't even matter which. It feels the same either way. Back at the office that afternoon, Patricia appeared at her desk the way she sometimes did, two coffees in hand, though this time she didn't immediately sit down. You okay? Patricia asked, studying Isabel's face a bit longer than usual. You've seemed on edge the last few days. I'm fine, Isabel said automatically, then caught herself. Actually, I don't know. Work stuff, it's complicated. Patricia set the second coffee down anyway and finally sat. You don't have to tell me what it is, she said. But for what it's worth, my door really is always open, not just something people say. I know, Isabel said. Thank you. Patricia studied her a moment longer, something thoughtful causing her expression. Is this about the review? Richard's team going through everyone's files? Sort of, Isabel admitted carefully. I just feel like I'm standing in the middle of something and I can't see the edges of it yet. That's a very honest way to put it, Patricia said. She didn't push further, but the warmth in her silence said more than questions would have. Late that afternoon, walking back from a meeting on another floor, Isabel passed a glass walled corridor near Margaret's office and slowed without quite meaning to. Inside, Richard stood across from Margaret's desk again, the second time Isabel had seen them like this. But something about it was different this time. Margaret wasn't composed. Her arms were crossed tightly, her jaw set, and for one unguarded second, before she noticed Isabel's shadow through the glass. Her usual flawless control looked genuinely, visibly rattled. Isabel kept walking, heart suddenly loud in her own ears. Whatever was happening behind that glass, it wasn't routine due diligence anymore. It looked like fear. Hi everyone, welcome back to The District, Chapter 16. Following. The tension is really tightening now, and we even get our first real crack in Margaret's composure. Let's unpack the language. Let's start with Isabel's question to Lynn. Does it feel like Richard's keeping tabs on me? To keep tabs on someone means to watch or monitor them closely, often in a way that feels controlling or suspicious. My manager keeps tabs on everything I do, or she likes to keep tabs on the competition. It's a really natural, slightly uneasy phrase, perfect for describing the feeling of being watched without solid proof. Now, let's look at Patricia's observation about Isabel. You've seemed on edge the last few days. To be on edge means to feel nervous, tense, or anxious, often in a way that's visible to other people. Everyone's a little on edge before the deadline, or she's been on edge ever since the announcement. It's an extremely common, useful phrase for describing visible stress in a workplace setting. Let's look at the sentence. I feel like I'm standing in the middle of something, and I can't see the edges of it yet. Notice the structure. Standing in the middle of something, used metaphorically, present continuous combined with a spatial metaphor to describe an ongoing, disorienting situation rather than a physical location. This kind of metaphorical present continuous, describing emotional or situational states as if they were physical positions, is a beautiful, natural way English speakers express confusion or overwhelm. I feel like I'm drowning in work, or we're kind of stuck in limbo right now. Let's listen to Patricia's caring check in. You okay? In fast, natural, warm speech, are you okay? Very commonly drops the R entirely in casual conversation, becoming simply, you okay? With rising intonation on okay. This isn't careless or incorrect. It's an extremely common natural reduction used constantly between people who know each other well. And the warmth comes through tone and intonation rather than grammatical completeness. Let's go back to something Patricia says, not just something people say. This short phrase functions as a clarification, emphasizing sincerity by explicitly distinguishing a genuine offer from an empty, commonly repeated phrase. We use structures like this, often in English, to reassure someone that we mean something literally, not just a social formality. I really mean it, not just being polite. Or that's a real offer, not just something people say. And finally, let's notice the chapter's closing word choice. It looked like fear. Notice the simplicity here. After an entire chapter of careful, descriptive language, the final sentence is short, direct, and emotionally blunt. This is a deliberate storytelling technique, using a short, simple sentence after more complex ones creates emphasis and impact, letting a single clear idea land without distraction. You'll notice strong writers often do this right before a chapter ends, building toward a single, sharp final beat. That's our lesson for chapter 16. We covered the phrase keep tabs on, the idiom on edge, the metaphorical use of present continuous to describe emotional states, the natural pronunciation reduction of are you okay into you okay, the clarifying structure, not just something people say, and the storytelling technique of using short, simple sentences for emotional impact. So, Patricia steps quietly into the role of Isabel's emotional anchor, just as Margaret's composure finally, briefly, breaks. Whatever is happening behind that glass wall, it's no longer just routine due diligence, and Isabel knows it. In her next chapter, Richard finally tells Isabel the truth he's been hiding this entire season, and it changes everything she thought she understood about him. I'll see you there.